Turbo 180 Bravo Bravo, good afternoon to you. Report your altitude?
2,000 feet on 1014, Bravo Bravo.
Bravo Bravo.
Hi, Wycliffe Barrett, Xplane dedicated. I did a review of the A330 some time ago when it first came out. I've decided to go back to it because it's had lots of new additions, new things in it, some really interesting stuff. This is going to be a full flight from cold and dark start at Cardiff and a flight all the way to Manchester. We'll see you in a moment. Hello flightsim.com and YouTube, this is Wycliffe Barrett, Xplane dedicated. Today I'm doing a review of the JARDesign A330. I did a review some time ago, as I said in the intro, but I thought I'd come back to it because it's got a lot of new features, PBR, HDR, all sorts of goodies for me to look at and for me to show you. Anyway, stand 6 at Cardiff. Beautiful aircraft, really well modelled, absolutely superb from any angle. Lots of views, lots of angles to choose, and it just looks great. As you can see here, the sun is shining. It's an autumn day here in South Wales, and it just looks great. Let's get into the cockpit, have a look around, and I mean, just look at that sheepskin coverings on the seats, which is what you expect. A nice few scuff marks around the lower MCDU. Nice reflection on the glass, and we have a checklist there. Look at the animation on that side stick, absolutely superb animation. That is new, and I know that they've been working on that, along with lots of other things as well. They've changed the colours of the lighting on the overhead, and a number of other things. So just having a quick look around. Co-pilot's view, reflection on the cockpit windows, reflection on the glass in the cockpit. Dirty marks here and there, you might find a few fingerprints and bits of food, crumbs, as always in cockpits. Anyway, I think it's probably time to get some power onto the aircraft. One thing I must remind you, make sure you've got fuel in the aircraft, otherwise it will not start. The APU will not start. I spent weeks thinking I had a major bug, and then I was told fuel. What a dummy. You can use your middle mouse button to look around as well. I'm using X camera, that's why you've got all these lovely smooth movements as well. And X camera is available from stickandrudder.com. Okay. Once again, there is a cabin, although I'm not that bothered about cabins. You know, I don't spend that much time in the cabin. I tend to spend most of my time in the cockpit. But let's have a look at the cabin. Here we are, the galley. First class, we just had a quick look at. We'll go back to first class. Very nice indeed. I've never flown on an A330, but I'd like to one day because they're a big aircraft and it seems to be quite roomy. Anyway, back into the cockpit. I've just called ground handling. And so we'll have a look at all the ground handling coming up, coaches, fire engines and fuel truck. And the fuel truck, very important, as you'll see. It's coming around under the left wing there as we look at the aircraft, I believe. It's coming from the rear of the aircraft, so it'll come from the rear to the left wing as we look at it. Right wing if you were sat in the cockpit. Okay. Now the important thing about this, and you might not be able to see it on the video, if you have a close look now, you should see as it pulls up, a pipe snakes out from the aircraft and attaches to the wing, and there you have your fuel gauge on the left side, so you can put in as much fuel as you need for your flight by just hitting increase and then the kind of start button to the right of my cursor there, and it'll refuel the aircraft. There you go, you can see it refueling the aircraft, and once you've done that, of course, you can then pull up the ground handling widget and get rid of the fuel truck. It's no longer needed, but everything else is going according to plan. Passengers are being brought to the aircraft from the terminal, catering is being put on the aircraft, and also baggage as well. There is a baggage handler somewhere. We have an ambulance waiting there just in case there's any kind of medical emergencies, and I can see there's a limousine there at the front steps, so obviously we've got a VIP on board as well. Just putting in some cargo, and you can see the baggage going up the baggage escalator there as well, so everything's looking good, and maybe it's time to get into the aircraft and sort out the power arrangements and see what's going on. So as you can see, as we look at the overhead there is external power available with 2 green lights that are saying available. So that's good. We can get some power when it's required. But just looking around, just doing a quick cockpit check, making sure everything's okay before we put power onto the aircraft. So click those 2 switches and there you go, and everything will light up. So we need to put on the fuel pumps and also the batteries as well. So fuel pumps and batteries are engaged, which is pretty good. And now we'll do the ADIRU, or ADIRS as they call it in the Airbus. So turn each switch, wait until the on-bat light goes out before you go to the next switch. There we go. Making sure that they're all in the right positions and aligning, which is very nice. So once we've done that, we can once again check the glass, make sure everything's alright. Also need to get the beacon light on, and we'll put the seatbelt and no smoking signs on, as well as a few other things as well. And quickly just having a look at the overhead, everything seems to be okay. We do need to do fire alarm, fire tests, APU fire tests. That's good. Everything's working fine there. Having a look at the MCP, multi-control panel at the top there. That's alright. Once again, scanning around the cockpit to make sure everything is where it should be. Make sure the park brake is set, which it was previously, so you know it was a bit silly really. Once you get into the aircraft, the park brake should be set automatically. Turn the radios on. They won't work until you turn that little switch, which is to the right and below the dial for frequencies. And I've done the squawk code. If I was flying online in VATSIM without any ATC, squawk code is 2200. Once again, scanning the cockpit. There's a checklist on the left hand side. Is really not that useful. I haven't used it, never used it, but everything seems to be okay. I've set QNH. I've set the altitude on the altimeter just before we do anything else really. Just it's one of those things, just go through and do them. APU bleed is on. APU start, and we'll start the APU, and hopefully we'll be able to see the flap open. So let's have a look on the lower ECAS there, and you see flap open, so that means APU is running and pressures are normal on that. Excellent. So it's all going really quite nicely. It's very straightforward. The one thing I like about this aircraft is that there are many systems. All the systems are correct and they all work. So the electrical system, hydraulic system, oxygen, air conditioning, everything works on this aircraft. And you can see that if you go to the enunciation panel, which is in between the MCDUs, then you can look at each one. We'll have a look at that in a few moments. So once again, quick scan of the overhead, make sure everything's alright. It would appear to be so. So here we are at the enunciation panel there, which is in between the MCDUs, and you can click on each system and check. Now this is really handy if you have any problems in the aircraft, electrical problems, fuel problems. This is where you would come to see what is going on and then make your adjustments via the FCOM. So you'd get out your FCOM and see what it is you need to do to rectify the problem or the failure, if it so happens. So you can have each one on, or you can click on all and it will cycle through them all one after the other, repeatedly doing that, which can be a little bit annoying. So I find the best thing to do is just go to the engine page in preparation for starting engines, and what will happen is that whatever system is in use, that screen will change automatically to it. So if you're doing flight control, it will change to flight control. If your primary function is engines, it will change to engines. So it's a very useful tool, and it just keeps everything at your fingertips, so to speak, so you know what is going on with the aircraft. And that little pause as you change from one to the other, that is exactly what it's like in the real aircraft. See it? So you get that pause as it's loading in that system through the computers. Okay, so MCDU, let's put a flight plan in. We're going to fly from Cardiff to Manchester, so that's EGFF to EGCC. And when you put it in at the top right, it then says, do you want to request it? And if you click on request, it actually builds the flight plan for you. And that flight plan is correct. I should know, I've flown that route countless times, hundreds of times. So you just accept, insert, align the IRS, and then put in some information here. So your flight number, I'll just keep it simple. We'll just put 2302. That's my favourite flight number. It's the one I've used for years. It's all over VATSIM, VATAware, and anywhere else you want to have a look. Put a cost index of 25 today, and yeah, that looks good. So now we need to come over here, zero fuel weight to CG. Click on that. It will put it in automatically, and your block fuel. Click on block fuel. It will put in all the figures automatically for you. Absolutely. The one thing about the Airbus is they're highly automated aircraft, and they work everything out for you. So you can see all the data is in there on the init fuel prediction page. So we just need to go to the takeoff page, put in a few things here. So shift is 300 meters, and then we need to put in our flaps. I'm going to use one down 0.1 actually. I think that might be 0.2. sorry, I put in there, so it's 1 down 0.2. I think I should have put in a different flap, and it might have been useful if I'd looked to the performance data page that is available through the MCDU as well, which would have given me performance data and the correct flaps, etc. But that's okay. Obviously you need to put your takeoff temperature in, outside takeoff temperature, flex temp rather, which is the outside temperature plus 32. You then go back to your flight plan and choose your departure. So it's showing me the departure for Cardiff to Manchester, which is northerly, so that's a Brecon 1 Alpha departure. And now we need to get the arrival for Manchester, and the arrival into Manchester on ILS 23 right is a Mercy 1 Alpha arrival. It's fairly straightforward. It took me some time, some years ago, it took me some time to actually figure out exactly how you program an Airbus MCDU, but it's relatively simple once you understand the basic concept. And it's the same with the Boeing FMC. The Airbus MCDU, once you understand the basic concept, it's really quite straightforward and very easy to use, and anybody should be able to program a flight plan within a few minutes of once they've learned how to do it. So you can either program the flight plan yourself manually, or you can ask the aircraft to insert it for you, as I did. So there we are, everything's in. Just looking at the MCP, just checking a few things, range rings, and yeah, everything looks good there. What we do need to do obviously is get rid of some of the enunciations in a little while, such as cabin check and arming spoilers and everything. You'll see those on the enunciation section of the multifunction display there, and that will help just to make sure you've got the aircraft set correctly. So now it's time to start the engines, and it's really straightforward. You just turn the engine start switch to start, and starting the left-hand engine. Always start the left-hand engine first. You can see that if we look at the bottom screen, you can see M1 and N2, N2 rotation coming up. And it's all automatic, so once you lift the lever for the number 1 engine, you don't have to monitor things for fuel flow. It's all done automatically in an Airbus, unlike Boeing aircraft where you have to monitor the N2 rotation when it gets to 22%, then inject your fuel. With the Airbus, it's all an automatic process. Here we are starting engine, the right-hand engine. And once again, that automatic process is coming into play. You can see that the M1 and N2 rotations coming up to optimum, and once that kind of grayed out flag on the top screen bottom right goes out, then you know that you are at
after start checklist
optimum
completed
performance there, and you can see that, and the bottom screen switched over to flight control, obviously because I need to do a flight control check, and we can do that, and at the same time turn off APU and the ground power availability. So everything switches over automatically from ground to the aircraft, and once again, see the reflections on the glass really working there with everything else. It just looks superb. I like the A330. It's a beautiful aircraft to fly. It's, you know, some people get a little bit stressed out about the automation, but I think that the automation adds to the immersiveness, the same way as
spoilers
starting up a Boeing
Flaps
737-200 Classic can be immersive. That's an older aircraft. This is a modern aircraft and is equally as immersive as well. I really enjoy flying the Airbus. Took me a while to get to grips with them, mostly because I was trying to fly Airbus with a yoke, and it's impossible, virtually impossible to try and fly an Airbus with a yoke. You have to use a joystick, or a side stick as they call them. Okay, I think we're almost ready for our departure out of Cardiff, so I just need to do that final check, make sure the lights are on, and make sure everybody's happy in the back, and cabin crew are happy, and we'll probably get going. I do not need push and start because we can taxi straight off
full
the stand
right,
here.
Check.
So we'll
full left, check.
We'll release the
full
brakes,
down, check.
push the throttles
Full
forward,
up,
and
check.
get moving. And here we go. Hopefully we'll have a nice flight up to Manchester. I'll be back in a few moments after we've done our taxi, etc.
Park brake off. Power set.
Okay, here we go. Let's get going. So, going down the runway, we should get to about 140 knots. But because unfortunately I didn't do the flaps correctly, it took a lot longer to get up to speed before we could get airborne.
knots.
So it's almost down to the BA hangar before I pulled back on the stick, which is a little bit too long for this aircraft. Here we go, pulling back, just airborne with a few hundred feet to go before the end of the runway. Not the best takeoff in the world, but not to worry, we're airborne and we're flying. So it's a case now of hitting the autopilot. You will see the auto throttle came on automatically, just having a quick look outside, and it's time to get the gear up.
Gear
Positive rate.
Speed.
Nice view out of the window, just going past Aberthorpe Power Station there. And now, autopilot 1.
Autopilot 1, cross check.
I could have flown the SID, the departure, quite easily, but let's just get autopilot 1 on and continue on our merry way to Manchester. Absolutely fabulous. Right, hang on a minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the aircraft and all its features. You can see it's raining. I'm using SkyMax Pro. I've gone back to SkyMax Pro version 4.6 and Real Weather Connector as well. FSG out there. You can see it's raining there a little bit. This is the lead clouded on the Brecken 1 Alpha departure. Very nice indeed. Nice external shots. And I'm over Orbex, which is pretty hard to see when the weather is this murky. And this was real time yesterday. The weather was actually it was like this yesterday. Not very nice at all. Right, I'll be back in a moment. So, looking at some of the features of the JARDesign A330, it's tested by real pilots. The real 330 pilots and technicians helped us in the development and testing of this aircraft. Ground equipment, you can use the JARDesign ground handling plugin with the JARDesign 330 for free. There's a free
autopilot 1 cross check,
which is very useful for those who like to do paints. I'm not one of them. It's got 3D sound, the new 3D sound engine, an easy way to customize sound set and build your own sound effects.
Need to check if everything is okay with the launch.
There's support from the forum, and the forum, I have to say, is very, very good. If you go to xplane.org and search out the A330 forum, it's absolutely brilliant. It's so useful, so helpful. You get answers fairly quickly, as well as, of course, writing into Xplane dedicated on Facebook, and you'll get your answers there as well. Now, let's see, how much does it cost? It's a little bit expensive. It's $60.95. I'm not quite sure what that works out in sterling. I'll put the price up somewhere on the video around about now. But it's a little bit expensive, but I will say you do get an awful lot for your money. You do get a lot of aircraft for your money, and you really can't go wrong. I would say that it's worth the money, definitely worth the money. I bought a copy long time ago. When it first came out, I got a copy. Since then, I've been in the beta team, so I update my version through the beta program as well. So there are two different downloads for this. There's a download version for Xplane 10, and that is 1.3R3, and the download version for Xplane 11 is download version 3R5. Okay, so there's two different versions depending on whether you're in Xplane 10 or Xplane 11. Make sure you get the correct one, otherwise you'll be getting into a few problems trying to install the Xplane 11 one into Xplane 10. There are some requirements regarding this aircraft. It is a study level aircraft, and it does say on the JARDesign site that if you're a new user, then you may find that it's going to take a little bit more time for you to get into it. That it's actually it is an advanced level aircraft, but it's entirely up to you. I think getting these advanced level aircraft, it doesn't matter if you're a new user or not, getting these aircraft actually pushes you further. You have to learn a lot more to get the aircraft in the air and to fly it, and that's all part of the joy of flight simulation as well. You can get some aircraft that you just jump in and fly. Others, you need to do a little bit of study, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that is a good thing, a little bit of study. And there's lots of places you can go for help and support. Xplane dedicated for one, YouTube for another, obviously, and the JARDesign forum on xplane.org. They will all help. Whilst we're still flying along to Manchester, I'd just like to say many thanks to flightsim.com and JARDesign as well for helping me to put this video together. Also, need to talk about Wired to Fire because this video is powered by Wired to Fire PCs, performance PCs. So there we have it. Those are all my sponsors, I suppose, and supporters. Xplane Dedicated is a completely independent review body, so to speak, and if it's bad, I'll tell you. If there's something wrong with it, I'll tell you there's something wrong with it. If it's good, then I'll tell you it's good. Anyway, that's enough of that. So here we are, we're just coming up to Wallasey, I believe. Mersey, no, sorry, we're coming up to Mersey on the Mersey 1 Alpha arrival into Manchester. You can see the weather is it's a little bit dense up here at the moment. We're just surfing the clouds as we begin our descent, or we're on our descent down into Manchester. Now, I need to tell you, I forgot to put my scenery. This is a fresh install of Xplane 11. Something I rarely do, very rarely do, but I wanted to do it because I was having problems with my plugins folder.
Spoilers aren't.
Conflicting with something, and I couldn't figure out which plugin was conflicting, and to be honest, my Xplane installation was a bit of a mess because I install a lot of stuff. Anyway, I decided to do a complete new fresh install, which is really liberating because when you get that fresh install, it's all new and it's exciting. So this is a fresh install with Orbex, Great Britain, in the south, and default from just above North Wales. I think it stops at North Wales. So now we're over default scenery as we're coming into Manchester, whereas previously, as we flew out of Cardiff, we was over Orbex, Great Britain, True Earth South, or True Earth.
We need
Great
more
Britain
drag,
South.
sir.
You can see it's default there, but that's fine. It's okay. It kind of all looks the same at 30,000 feet. But as we're coming in now on this approach into Manchester, you can see that the weather is clearing a little bit in the northwest of England, which is useful. And well, it's all very good. Not long to go now, about 4 minutes before we're actually touching down, and I hope you found the flight useful and enjoyable. Right, so just as we're coming towards Manchester, we have to configure our approach page in the MCDU, and I've already done that, and whilst I was talking previously I missed it, but you need to find your approach page in the MCDU, and you will have to put in the QNH, the temperature at your arrival airport. You'll also need to put in the wind and what landing config you're going to use, whether it's the config 3 or full. But generally config 3 is enough, especially for airports such as Manchester, which have long runways. At the moment I'm just doing a little bit of self-vectoring because I know that if I try to land on the flight plan, it's going to bring me in too short, too close to the runway. So I'm just doing a bit of self-vectoring and probably give myself something like a 10-12 mile approach, as opposed to the very short 7.5 mile approach that the flight plan puts me on. So I'm self-vectoring now, I'm off plan, so to speak, and controlling the aircraft only using heading mode, so to speak. So it's still an automated flight. You can see the autopilot 1 is still on. We're descending to 3,500 feet because that's the capture altitude for Manchester.
Radio altimeter alive.
Just need to adjust the QNH, which is right 1003, and everything is looking rosy. So a few more moments now, and we'll begin that turn onto a heading of 23 right, and capture the localizer. I'm not forgetting that the way that you do this in an Airbus is entirely different from a Boeing aircraft. So below the QNH, on the left of the MCP there, you'll see two buttons.
Radio altimeter alive.
Flight director, and the other is LS. And that is LS for landing system, so we need to activate that. I've also got localizer activated underneath the speed button. You saw the light, it just went out then.
Radio altimeter alive.
I'll turn it back on again in a moment, just to make sure that I capture
Autopilot
the
2,
localizer.
cross-check.
It's not necessary in an Airbus. You can just hit the approach button, which is further to the right on the
Flaps
MCP.
2.
You know, why they put them in a line across the MCP, I have no idea.
Gear down.
Slightly different from a Boeing aircraft, where one is above the other to the right middle of the MCP in a Boeing aircraft. It doesn't matter, it's just something you've got to get used to. You've got to make sure you hit those buttons in sequence so that you get it right. So we're definitely on our approach now into runway 23. The aircraft is configured for landing lights, nose wheel lights, gear is down, and the runway is ahead somewhere there. It's approximately 7.5 miles ahead of me in the rather hazy afternoon. The air is quite damp, quite moist. This is XP 11.26, not 11.30, so you won't see any contrails coming off my wingtips or anything like that. But rest assured, it's a hazy day. It's very moist and damp, and there's a bit of wind around as well, because I felt the aircraft was being rocked around a little bit as we came in on our final approach. I'm going to keep quiet just as we come in, and then you can hear the aircraft and all the enunciations on board.
Your seatbelt is securely fastened. The flight attendants are currently passing around the cabin to make a final compliance check and pick up any remaining cuffs and glasses. Thank you.
Go around, altitude set.
$500. 400. 300. 100 above. 200. 100.
Sync rate. Sync
50,
rate.
40,
Sync
30,
rate.
20. Retard. Retard.
Decel. Spoilers full. We are on the ground, sir. Are you okay?
Bit of a scrappy landing, but we're down safe and sound. It's now time to taxi off and get to the cafe in the airport. I need a cup of
70
coffee.
knots.
Oh, my hands were sweating on that one, I can tell you. We'll see you soon. There you go. Very long review and flight of the JARDesign A330. Hope you found it useful. I think the JARDesign A330 is one of the better big aircraft in Xplane 11. We're still desperately waiting for a 747 and a few other aircraft, A340. But at the moment, the JARDesign A330 is one of the best long-haul large aircraft in Xplane. As I say, hope you enjoy it. As always, my name is Wycliffe Barrett. This is Xplane Dedicated, and we'll see you soon. Cheerio.